Hey everybody, this is Tracy here with another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and we are here with our recap for testimony today in the United States versus Kelly, McDavid, and Brown. And so guys, it's a wrap. Okay, basically testimony ended, the defense has rested, and the prosecution has decided that they will not put on a rebuttal case. And so on Monday, closing arguments will start. So you guys know I typically read an article, the summation of the trial, then I go through the live tweets. But today what I am going to do is I am going to read the article from the Tribune, which is Jason Mesner and Megan Crepeau, whose tweets I usually read also, but I'm not going to do their tweets today. And then following this article, I will read the live tweets from David Burns, because to me, he had the best tweets because he gave more detail, whereas Jason and Megan was all over the doggone place. But anyway, so this is what their article is stating. And the title of the article, if you want to check it out, is Defense Rests in R. Kelly's Federal Trial, Setting Stage for Closing Arguments and Possible Verdict Next Week. And so it says the defense has rested in the federal trial of R&B singer Kelly and two former associates, setting the stage for closing arguments and a possible verdict next week. Lawyers for Kelly, his former business associate Daryl McDavid, and ex-employee Milton June Brown each rested after McDavid concluded more than 14 hours of testimony over the past 3 days. Prosecutors were still deciding whether to put on rebuttal witnesses, but the judge has said the trial will conclude next week either way. So use your time wisely, I guess. So the quick end to the evidence phase of the case came after prosecutors spent hours on cross-examination Friday seeking to portray McDavid as too much of an insider to ever have been ignorant of Kelly's true actions, and indicated that he had a significant financial interest in making sure Kelly's reputation stayed clean. Daryl McDavid knew about the lawsuits alleging Kelly's misconduct, but simply wanted to pay the claimants off to just give them money to make them go away, Assistant U.S. Attorney Janice Appington asserted. It wasn't about getting to the truth of the matter, right? She asked. McDavid responded that she was misstating his testimony. It was about protecting your boss and protecting your pocket, Appington asserted. No, ma'am, McDavid said. It was not about my pocket. McDavid and Kelly faced federal charges alleging they concealed evidence showing Kelly abused his goddaughter. McDavid has made the rare and somewhat risky decision to testify in his own defense. His marathon testimony began Wednesday morning and could continue all day Friday. So McDavid has repeatedly, actually his testimony on direct concluded yesterday evening, and then the prosecution were the ones that were questioning him today. So McDavid has repeatedly said he had no reason to believe Kelly was involved in wrongdoing in the late 1990s and 2000s, when Kelly was repeatedly accused of abusing underage individuals. McDavid testified that at the time of Kelly's 2008 Cook County trial, he believed the tape at the center of the charges was phony and that Kelly was frequently extorted by liars who were out for a payday. McDavid's defense depends in large part on the claim he believed that Kelly was actually innocent during the time period and of the alleged cover-ups, and that he only ever acted at the behest of all the lawyers and investigators he hired. On prosecutors' cross-examination, they noted that the main lawyers and investigators who McDavid said informed his views on Kelly's innocence are all dead now. Oh, you know what? I think they did begin their cross-examination on yesterday evening, but they didn't get much in. McDavid confirmed, however, that he made... So you are the only one left to describe what was said and what was not said during those conversations. Is that right? Appleton asked, and McDavid answered no. McDavid confirmed, however, that he made a significant amount of money managing Kelly's affairs before the two men had a professional falling out around 2013. McDavid has been somewhat contentious on the stand, telling the prosecutor repeatedly that he thought she was misrepresenting his previous testimony in her questions. Several times he had a confused expression cross his face, opened his mouth and closed it before saying, "I don't recall." At one point, hold on a second, let me get back up here. At one point, when asked about how much he'd earned in commission from Kelly's companies during a particular year, McDavid asked Appleton if she could total it. You're the accountant. Can you total it? She joked, prompting jurors and spectators to burst into laughter. McDavid threw his hands up and smiled, saying, "I don't have a calculator." Appleton noted that McDavid previously said he didn't believe Kelly's accusers in part because they didn't go to police with their claims, but she noted McDavid never called law enforcement when he thought Kelly was being stolen from or extorted by people like prosecution witness Charles Freeman. You didn't call the police on Charles Freeman for his extortion attempt. You didn't want police to see that tape, the tape that contained CP, right? No, ma'am, McDavid responded. McDavid again repeatedly claimed he did not see any of the video that Kelly's team recovered. Kelly's co-defendant and former business partner, Darryl McDavid, second from right, reading the caption for a picture. Let me take that out. Okay, so it says, in a particularly testy exchange, prosecutors also pressed McDavid on whether he was really absent for a crucial meeting at an Oak Park hotel. Kelly's goddaughter, known in the trial as Rishona, well, as Jane, but we know as Rishona, has previously testified that at all meetings, Kelly told her parents about their contact. Kelly's goddaughter, known in the trial as Jane, but we know her name is Rishona, has previously testified that at that meeting, Kelly told her parents about their sexual contact. Rishona said she could not recall whether McDavid was present. However, her mother, Valerie, testified McDavid was there, but said Kelly did not make any admissions of wrongdoing. So Rishona and Obama was contradicting each other. Okay, so McDavid on Friday strenuously denied being present for that meeting, a claim prosecutors sought to cast doubt on. McDavid previously testified that the meeting would involve delicate matters. It's delicate because Kelly is admitting to having sex with his goddaughter for the first time, right? Appleton asked. "Oh my God," Kelly's defense attorney Jennifer Bongine exclaimed. Judge Harry Lindenweber then sustained an objection before one was even made. Because he already knew where Jennifer was going with it. Like, lady, if you don't stop making up stuff in these questions. And you know, I think that the prosecution was all black, y'all. They got the black people up there doing this stuff. Hold on a second. Okay, so after another question about the meeting, McDavid leaned back in his chair and said directly to Appleton, "You got to do better." He then quickly said, "I'm sorry for saying that," clamping a hand over his mouth. Another sharp exchange occurred shortly before the lunch break when Appleton asked whether it was true that McDavid had hugged a man after he returned a Kelly tape to him in exchange for money. Huh? No, ma'am, McDavid said. You have to answer yes or no, not huh, Appington said. Toward the end of his direct examination Thursday, McDavid testified that it wasn't until viewing evidence during the current federal trial that McDavid saw things differently. For the last 3 weeks, I've learned a lot of things that I had no idea about in 2008, McDavid said, and that was on yesterday. Asked if he wanted to believe Kelly's claims that his accusers were all liars, McDavid said, I absolutely did. When asked why, his voice started to break. Because I loved him and I believed in him, McDavid said. As I stand here today, I'm embarrassed and sad. His answer was cut off by loud objections from Kelly's attorney as well as prosecutors. And that was also on yesterday. Let's see, what else did they have to say? So on cross-examination Friday, prosecutors asserted McDavid would long ago have been aware of the accusations made by two witnesses who testified at this trial. The two, identified only as Tracy and Mya, made claims that Kelly's team settled long before this trial. McDavid was even named in a suit filed by Mya, though McDavid said he had no memory of that. Earlier in the trial, jurors had seen excerpts of 3 videos purporting to show Kelly having contact with his goddaughter, Rishona. Defense attorneys have not directly challenged the fact that Kelly and Rishona are depicted on the sexually explicit footage, and prosecutors presented extensive testimony from Rishona that Kelly had sexual contact with her innumerable times, beginning when she was 14. Then pressured her to lie about it. Kelly, 55, faces an indictment charging him with 13 counts of producing and receiving CP, enticing minors to engage in criminal activity, and conspiracy to obstruct justice. Also charged are McDavid and Milton June Brown, who are accused in an alleged scheme to buy back incriminating tapes that had been taken from Kelly's collection to hide years of alleged abuse of these individuals. Okay, so that's the end of their article. And then we're going to move into Dave Burns, who, like I said, I felt just gave the best live tweets on the case. So I'm not going to get into Megan and Jason's tweets on this video. Okay. So week 4 of the Kelly federal trial in Chicago wraps up today. Kelly's co-defendant and former manager, Daryl McDavid, finished direct examination by his defense attorney, Bo Brindley, yesterday. Today, federal prosecutors will begin his cross-examination. Okay, so they didn't do him yesterday. It did start today. Okay, so prosecutors are petitioning Judge Harry Linen-Weber to allow them to cross-examine McDavid regarding Kelly's 2003 arrest in Florida on CP charges, saying Brindley opened the topic yesterday when asking McDavid about his handling of Kelly's legal issues. Both Brindley and Kelly's attorney, Jennifer Bongine, object, saying that Brindley never directly broached the Florida charges while questioning McDavid. Linen-Weber rules for the defense attorneys, ordering prosecutors to stay away from the matter during cross. Prosecution now beginning cross-examination of McDavid. And remember, these are live tweets that I'm reading, so if they sound funny, that's why. Okay, Kelly's former manager and co-defendant in this trial, McDavid's direct testimony in his defense to his defense attorney, Bo Brindley, lasted the better part of the last 2 days. Prosecution asking about the people who he said affected his view of whether Kelly was having sex with Rishona, Jack Palladino, Kelly's lawyer, Rishona's father, etc. Okay, prosecution points out that most of these people are now dead. Palladino, Ed Jensen, Jerry Margolis, you are the only one left. Who knows what these people discussed regarding Rishona, prosecutor says. Prosecution moves on to ask McDavid about Kelly's book, Solar Coaster, The Diary of Me, if he knows that he is mentioned in the book's acknowledgments. McDavid says he doesn't recall, but prosecution shows him the book and his name in the acknowledgments. McDavid says that Kelly, at the height of his career, was his biggest client. He also says he coordinated Kelly's personal security and was his friend and business manager when the allegations about the tape with Rishona surfaced. McDavid adds he was close with Kelly until about 2011 and says that part of his responsibilities was protecting Kelly's image. In exchange for his services, prosecution posits Kelly's companies would pay him sometimes over $1 million per year. McDavid disagrees with this assertion, but says he doesn't know what an accurate figure of his compensation from Kelly would be. Prosecutors produced multiple checks from 2006 to 2007, each for tens of thousands that McDavid received from Kelly's accounts. Okay, so tens of thousands don't equal millions, does it? In a year? I mean, I'm just saying. So McDavid agrees with prosecution that in 2008, he made over $1 million on commission from Kelly's accounts. And you guys know he made 10% off of whatever Kelly made, I believe, is what he said his contract stood for. 10% of the gross earnings, I believe he said. So prosecution asking about McDavid's work as an accountant and business manager for Kelly. Prosecution asks if his responsibility included managing payouts for lawsuit settlement agreements between 1996 and 2002. McDavid, after some prodding, affirms that yes, that was true. So Kelly's attorney, Jennifer Bonjean, objects over prosecution calling these civil lawsuits being about young girls, saying that term is prejudicial. Lennon Weber brushes the objection off, but prosecution clarifies that the lawsuits were about minors. Isn't that same difference? I think the young girls sounded better than minors. I don't know. So McDavid affirms prosecution's claim that these cookie-cutter lawsuits needed to be handled as they could be a threat to Kelly's career. He also affirms the lawsuits began emerging around when Kelly was indicted in 2002 on criminal counts in Illinois. McDavid says the lawsuits, and y'all know my page skipped up, right? McDavid says the lawsuits brought by Tiffany Hawkins partially impacted his view that women coming forward seeking money from Kelly were dishonest. Prosecutor Janice Appleton asks if McDavid remembers that a lawsuit brought by Kelly accuser Tracy in 2001 stated that she was under 18 when Kelly allegedly assaulted her. McDavid affirms remembering the suit as well as the suit settling in 2002 for $250,000. McDavid denies remembering settling another 2002 abuse claim from Kelly accuser Mya, who says she was 15 when she had an encounter with Kelly. I probably did, but I don't recall, McDavid says. McDavid is shown a copy of Mya's lawsuit, which names McDavid as a defendant. He maintains not remembering much about the lawsuit, including whether or not there was any reason why he was named as a defendant. Appleton brings up McDavid's testimony yesterday that before this trial, he didn't know many of the stories brought by Kelly's accusers over the course of this trial. Appleton juxtaposes this testimony to McDavid's earlier statement that he considered the cookie-cutter lawsuits brought by Kelly's alleged victims to be dishonest. You believe they were lying, Appleton says. Ma'am, I believe what I testified to yesterday, McDavid responds. McDavid denies that settling the cookie-cutter lawsuits was about protecting his pocket. He affirms that he hired who he considers some of the best lawyers in the country, but denies he did it to beat the cases or protect his boss. McDavid misspeaks that Ed Jensen handled some of the early lawsuits before correcting himself that Kelly's primary civil attorney was Jerry Margolis. Appleton asks if McDavid made any independent effort to find out if there was any truth to allegations that Kelly was sleeping with minors. Besides speaking with Kelly himself, McDavid disagrees, saying he spoke with Kelly's lawyer, Jerry Margolis, about it. So you just talked to Kelly? And then there's like a question mark. Appentine asked. So I'm thinking he didn't understand what she was asking him. And then he says, yes, ma'am. McDavid responds. He also denies in December 2002 talking to anyone else besides the lawyers of Kelly about the potential truth behind the allegations against Kelly. With that, Judge Lyndon Weber calls for a 15-minute break in Kelly's federal trial in Chicago. So trial resuming in the Kelly federal trial in Chicago, Judge Lyndon Weber, at the urging of Kelly's attorney Jennifer Bongine, is explaining the concept of hearsay to the jury. After Lyndon Weber defines hearsay as an out-of-court statement that is being offered in court to prove the truth of the matter being discussed, and after telling the jury what they can and cannot consider hearsay, he tells prosecution to resume cross-examination. So, prosecutor Janice Appleton asked if Kelly's co-defendant and former manager Darryl McDavid is aware that Kelly's other former manager, Barry Hankerson, had his lawyer send a letter to Kelly's lawyer, Jerry Margolis, in 2000. McDavid doesn't recall. Appleton produces the 2000 letter as well as another letter Hankerson's lawyer sent to Margolis in 2001. McDavid says this still does not refresh his memory of the letters. Appleton moves on to August 01, asking if he's aware that Chuck Freeman had a phone conversation with Kelly then regarding an alleged tape. McDavid says he recalls but denies hiring Jack Palladino to investigate Freeman. He says Margolis hired Palladino. So McDavid also denies ever paying Freeman, saying Palladino paid him. When Appleton asks if he authorized the money Palladino gave to Freeman, McDavid simply states that he already answered Appleton's question. Okay. So Appleton continues pushing on who authorized the money that Palladino allegedly paid Freeman. McDavid eventually admits that he authorized the funds, but that the money was ultimately Kelly's, not his. So Appleton, getting into Palladino's contract with Freeman to return Kelly's performance tape, she asks if McDavid ever went to the police when Kelly's property was stolen. Absolutely not, McDavid says. McDavid says he disagrees with the statement that he hired Charles Freeman to do a job instead of calling the police. He agrees that Freeman was extorting Kelly, but denies not calling police to investigate Freeman because he didn't want them to see the tape. McDavid denies ever discussing the audio of the alleged tape that Palladino recovered from Freeman with either Palladino or Margolis. Prosecution moving on to Palladino's 2002 invoice to McDavid for 2001 expenses. The record is dated after Kelly had been indicted in Cook County on CP charges. The record mentions extortion but not adult porn tapes or performance tapes. Prosecution moving on to Palladino's 2002 invoice to McDavid for 2001 expenses. The record is dated after Kelly had been indicted. The record mentions extortion, but not. So Appleton, bless her heart, she's doing the best she can. Appleton brings up, while discussing the 2002 invoice, that McDavid testified earlier this week that Palladino was extremely detailed in his billing statements. Moving on, Appleton now asks McDavid about his testimony regarding a December 2001 meeting with Kelly, Rishona, and Rishona's parents. Allegations surfacing of a tape. Appleton asks if such allegations would be career-ending. McDavid denies knowing if rumors of a tape with a minor would end Kelly's career, but says it would be damaging. McDavid also says he arranged the meeting at the hotel, but denies being in the room for it. He says he was waiting outside the hotel in his car. Prosecution now asking about Rashonda's testimony earlier in the trial that at the 2001 hotel meeting, Kelly told Rashonda's parents that he had sex with her and asked for their forgiveness. Appenting says that McDavid, if he has any reason, Appenting asked McDavid if he has any reason to believe Rashonda was lying about that testimony. He says he does not. Appenting brings up McDavid's testimony that he attended Kelly's psychiatry appointments with him, connecting that to why McDavid wouldn't accompany Kelly to such an important meeting with Rashonda's parents. Following an objection from defense, prosecution drops the line of questioning related to Kelly's 2001 meeting with Rashonda's parents. Appenting instead jumps to Rashonda's meeting with criminal attorney Ed Jensen. So you guys remember in the article I just read from Jason and Megan, they actually quoted when Valerie was on the stand that she discounted what Rashonda had said and said that Rashonda, that McDavid was not in that meeting, even though Rashonda said that he was. Okay, so let's see. So she jumps to the meeting. So McDavid says that Rashonda's parents didn't accompany her to the meeting with Jensen and that she left Jensen's office together with Kelly. Moving on again to documents Jack Palladino sent to Kelly's civil attorney, Jerry Margolis, regarding Kelly's former tour manager, Demetrius Smith. McDavid says he doesn't recall testifying that the involvement of Smith in another civil lawsuit informed his state of mind regarding the Rashonda sex tape allegations against Kelly. McDavid also denies ever going to the Cook County State's Attorney's Office to try and view the copy of the alleged Rashonda tape that the Chicago Sun-Times provided to the Chicago Police Department in 2002. Jumping ahead again to 2007 and the involvement of Keith Murrell and Lisa Van Allen, McDavid says he authorized paying the pair $100,000 each for the return of a tape that featured Kelly, Van Allen, and Kelly's then wife Andrea. McDavid denies ever threatening Van Allen and Murrell to bring back the tape, but relents that he may have said in his testimony yesterday that he told the pair they better bring back the tape. McDavid says again that he believes Van Allen and Murrell were extorting Kelly, but also that he never went to police about it. Prosecution asked McDavid if he didn't go to police because he didn't want police catching wind of potential CP tape. McDavid denies that assertion. Before going further, Judge Lennon Weber calls for lunch. Kelly's federal trial in Chicago will resume after 2 p.m. Kelly's Chicago federal trial is now resuming, but unfortunately I need to get back to the Cook County Courthouse to cover other suits there. I was waiting to see if closing arguments might be presented today, but it looks like that won't happen. So then he goes on and does a few more tweets saying that Kelly's trial will continue into next week, a week longer at least than it was initially expected to last. Breaking news, all three defendants in Kelly federal trial in Chicago, Darryl McDavid, Milton Brown, and Kelly himself have rested their case. Prosecution in Kelly's trial now discussing internally if they want to begin rebuttal this afternoon or next week prior to the delivery of closing arguments. Prosecution says they need time to develop their rebuttal, but District Judge Harry Lennon Weber tells prosecutors rebuttal is either going to happen this afternoon or not at all. He says he has been under pressure to wrap the Kelly trial up quickly. Prosecutors also said they may want to bring in Kelly's former manager, Barry Hankerson, as a rebuttal witness, but Lennon Weber shoots that idea down as well. Prosecutors in Kelly's federal trial in Chicago have elected not to present a rebuttal to the defense's case. The trial will convene Monday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time for closing statements. So guys, what do y'all think about this? Okay, like, did this trial go how y'all expected it to go? Because it definitely did not go as I expected it to go. Like, this was such a waste of time, a waste of taxpayer dollars. And I don't know if the defense just threw up their hands and just said, what the hell? I mean, like, their defense was worse than the defense in the New York case. Who did Banjing call up? Like, I don't even know anybody she called up. I remember her questioning some people. If she called somebody up, I think it was just one or two people. And I guess she said what she had to say when she cross-examined people. Milton Brown, did he call anybody? Or did he call the Tom Arnold guy? Or was the Tom Arnold part of the prosecution? Yeah, I just was expecting, especially when it came to them tapes, I was expecting some forensic analysts. I was expecting people to come in and say, because these tapes have been copied numerous times, you can't verify the authenticity of them, that yes, there could be voiceover. This could have happened through the years. I didn't hear any of that taking place. Now, maybe I was asleep a couple of days. I know I had some things going on in my life over the past couple of weeks, but I must have missed a lot because I don't know, this just didn't end the way I was expecting it to end. So y'all let me know, did I miss a couple of days? I think Friday, I know I would have been out of the loop. And maybe Thursday as well. I had some stuff going on. I don't know, maybe I missed a couple of days of testimony and didn't go back and read the tweets or something, but I was disappointed. But I am not going to second guess the attorneys because they were in the courtroom, they heard the actual testimony, and maybe they felt confident enough at the end of the prosecution's case that they had not proven their case, so they didn't want to muddy the waters and cause any other problems by bringing in witnesses who the prosecution could have came and, built on their case using those people. I must say I'm proud of Darren McDavid. He didn't break under pressure, it doesn't look like. And so, looks like the jury will get this case probably Tuesday. I'm going for Tuesday. They'll probably have this case and we'll have a verdict soon after. But we do know that Judge Weber was over this case, and he said he was under pressure to bring this to a close. So he was basically giving the government whatever they wanted. And then also there was a comment that the Dave guy didn't put in, but somebody shared where the prosecutor told the judge that the government was entitled to a fair trial also. So I guess they feel that the judge was favoring the defense, and the defense seemed to be okay. But I told y'all, Weber is 85 years old. He grew up in an era where young women were, 14, 15, were marrying grown men. So he don't see what the issue is here. He don't know what's going on. But he do need to retire. I do know that much. But in any event, guys, that's it for me for the recap of today's testimony. Go ahead, leave your comments below, rate the video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And until the next time, I shall talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.